Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Welcome to the show. We'd like to welcome back writer and scholar Riley Yesno. Welcome back, Riley.
Thank you.
Okay, y'all, well, we want to start with this story. Jonathan Bailey is defending kissing Scarlett Johansson right on the mouth at the Jurassic World Rebirth premiere. There it is. Front row says, I do it. Entertainment Tonight, he told Entertainment Tonight, that is, that life's too short not to kiss your friends. Okay, but I mean, kissing your friends and then like kissing your friends on the mouth. What do we make of these with, you know, non-romantic kisses on the mouth with your friends?
I hear such a mixed review. I think it's okay, you know? Like, as long as everybody's on board, everybody that is privy to this kiss, to your relationships is cool with it, then I'm cool with it.
How do you know everyone's okay with it? Like,
you
gotta go in for the lip kiss first.
Well,
would you ask?
I have a photo here from Pride 2 years ago, and you want to know who took that photo? That's my friend Ryan, by the way, also a gay man. And my wife took that photo of us, so that's how we know that it's okay.
Questions?
Yeah.
That's not like just a Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan
His
Peck.
mouth is open.
You guys have arms around each other. There are arms. It's very intimate.
Very romantic.
We were already hugging, and then I just went,
Okay.
And everybody was cool with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, like, there also, if I had friends that were either as hot as Jonathan Bailey or Scarlett Johansson, you best believe I would find an in. But also,
I agree.
I love it.
I admire that. I'm not into the non-romantic kiss. But if I'm being perfectly honest, the reason why is that I don't want to end up with a cold sore from somebody. Now, I would, listen, to be clear, I would take that risk for a hot makeout session. I would totally take that risk. But for a friend, I'm like, can't we just have a really great hug? I feel like that's, you're pressing your body up, and you're saying like a kind of like gesture of trust, and that to me feels
rubbing
like
your body against somebody else.
yeah, that's fine.
that's true.
I love it. You know what? It's interesting. I have no issue with it. I think it's, and also the photo, like when you see the video, you realize it's very quick. But I will say this much: I don't do this with my friends, and I know it's a cultural thing. I don't know if there are any Caribbean people here, or if all Caribbean people feel this way. But I didn't grow up with seeing people kiss on the lips. Like, we don't kiss our mothers, fathers, aunties, dogs. No one gets a kiss on the lip unless you're in a romantic relationship. Like, I saw my parents kiss on the lip a million times, but I never saw them kiss anybody else that way. So I can understand why some people are like, we don't do that, because it feels like it's a little sexual. And to be honest with you, when I get kissed on the lips, there's a part of my brain that goes, what's going on? So I don't want that feeling coming if I'm greeting a friend. Like, hey, Riley.
Oh.
Right? Because my brain's gonna be like, I think something's about to happen. So,
I see.
Yeah.
It's like a cascading set of events for you.
My brain's like,
And
we're
the kiss
starting
sets something off.
Yeah.
I get it. You know, it's funny because I'm not a lip kisser beyond my husband and my daughter, and even with kids, I still find it funny when I see adult children kiss their adult parents on the mouth, and that's totally cool. It happens for some people. I think it was Bill Belichick. There was somebody that we talked about on the show who, the adult kids, anyway, that's a different story.
Tom Brady kisses his sons on the lips.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
which I think is actually really sweet. That's a whole other story. I mean, if I had a friend that looked like Jonathan Bailey, obviously we're kissing on the mouth, Jonathan. Like, obviously we're kissing on the mouth. But it did make me think of the other, like, come on. Anyway, we could just look at this all day. But I do have a gay friend, and I realized, who do I do this with? Do I do this with anybody? And I thought I didn't. But I actually do kiss my gay friend on the mouth and his husband. And it's not a thing, and it's something so funny because...
Who started this?
It was consensual. It was consensual.
No,
Consensual both ways.
Okay, so
The first time it happened, did your brain kind of go, oh?
No, I was
Or
like,
was this
well,
normal?
that was so nice. And my husband was like, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And we just can keep doing it.
Yeah, you know why? Because I
Just keep
asked.
doing it.
Because I'm going to out one of our peers on our team, Ian. Sorry, Ian, I just said your name. He told me before the show that he still kisses his exes on the lips.
His exes?
His exes, even though they're in new relationships.
No.
When they greet each other, he gives them a peck on the lips, and I go, I would be flipping tables if my boyfriend greeted his ex with a kiss on the lips, and he was like, but if you're secure in yourself, I was like, I'm gonna securely flip that table.
I kind of like this, actually. I kind of like it.
You're into that one.
I kind of am into that one. Now you have reason, but that's for another episode. We're gonna move on to this. Kristin Cavallari told People magazine that she hasn't had issues finding dates because she's never had any desperation. So she says there's a difference between wanting a man and needing a man. So is desperation or the lack thereof the key to finding dates?
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with her. But before I launch into what I want to say, we have to state the obvious. Like, look at this woman. She is everybody's type. She's a pretty, blonde, privileged woman who, I don't know if you guys know this, but she started off on an MTV show called The Hills. And on that show, she was
Laguna Beach.
Yeah, she was in Laguna Beach, and she was the hot one. Yeah. So of course she doesn't have to feel desperate. But I honestly, I really have always really disliked it when I see single women on a platform and then they start begging for a husband. Like, do you have any brothers? Do you have any? It bothers me so much. And I think about two women who used to do this all the time, and they're now talk show hosts. And I'm talking about Sherry Shepherd and Kelly Clarkson. Before they got married, they used to do this all the time. Sherry would be on The View, and every single time there was a single man, she'd be offering herself up, like, oh, do you have a brother? Do you have a cousin? And I was like, Sherry, because I feel this way because I have never heard any of my male friends say, I chose her because she was begging and so desperate, so I did her a favor. I think it invites the wrong kind of person, and since that conversation, both of those women did get married, and they both are divorced, and both of the men that they married are trying to take all of their money from them. And they ended up embroiled in a nasty divorce. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, you're gonna get a guy, but you're not gonna get the guy that you want. So I totally agree with her.
Yeah, I think there is a middle ground though, right? Because like first of all, yeah, desperation I don't think ever helped anybody.
No.
But at the same time, if you're really aloof, if I'm like interested in you and you're like, yeah, I could give or take you, like you're just, whatever, I'm also like, okay, then go away. I don't think so much coldness also helps either. And also, like, I was thinking about this because when I first met my wife, we met and we were living in different cities, but we met in this one location. And I was like, just letting you know, I'm a bad texter. I'm not going to be pursuing this. Like, I think this isn't going to work. Okay. And they were like, no. And just like, we're like, it will work. And
wow. Were you trying to just put distance? Like, what was your MO there?
I just knew myself that I was like, I've never done a long distance relationship, and part of it being because like, I just don't
this
think
isn't gonna work
I can
out.
do that for me. But then it didn't come off as desperate. It came off as like very self-assured and very like direct and being like, I want this. And I was like,
but, yeah, you
that's
were going
hot actually.
Yeah,
but direct is hot. Direct
you were both going after what you want. I think it has to be like, I don't think aloofness to be aloof is right. I think that's a game playing. I think if you're inadvertently, like, you actually know your worth. To me, there's a huge difference between knowing your worth and being a Klingon. And knowing your worth and playing games. Like, so I can just say when Jason and I started dating, he came up to me at a party. It's a longer story we don't have time for. But, and we'd known each other sort of beforehand. But anyway, he handed me his number and I didn't call. And I wasn't trying to be aloof. I just wasn't sure if I was ready to have a relationship. But that made him sort of like, I think, more intrigued. But it wasn't a game. I wasn't trying to be, I was just being me.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing. I don't think desperation is going to help, but I also think, is this about your dating style or is this a bigger character issue? I think if you are a confident person, I think if you've got solid self-esteem, I think if you're self-assured, I think eventually, if that is something you want, it will come your way with the right person being attracted by that energy. As Mama Ru says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love anybody else? And so I think if you're coming in, right?
Yeah.
Mama Ru, for all I think if you're coming into a room, like you triggered a memory because when I met Ryan for the first time, I've never, I'm not going to say this to brag, but it sounds braggy. I've never had to work hard to find a guy to date. It's like, and I'm a serial monogamist. I love love. I love being in relationships. Thank God my marriage has worked out as well as it has. but I never was aloof and I was never desperate. It was like, I know my worth. And you want to have a good time? Great. You want to have a longer good time? Great. But the idea of desperation has never crossed my mind.
Because have you seen you walk into a room?
Oh, no, thank you. No, but...
All right, let's go on to our next topic. A lot has changed since Toronto Mayor Rob Ford admitted to smoking crack cocaine while in office. Yeah, remember that? And a new documentary on the scandal has us wondering if we would view his story differently in today's climate. Oh, audience is like, no.
You know, listen, yeah, we have had a lot of good conversations, opened up the conversation about mental health and addiction, but that's only really been in the last decade or so. And, you know, when I think of what was Rob Ford's thing, it's because he was brash and kind of like shot from the hip and quote-unquote straight shooter. And so I don't think things would have changed a lot. However, when I think of where we are today, Rob Ford was just an appetizer to the Donald Trump era. Because I think what we thought was wild and crazy back then and the antics compared to what's today, I mean, that was child's play. Rob Ford was child's play. So in some senses, I think it would be different. And in many ways, no, I don't think it would be different at all.
I don't know if it was child's play. I mean, like, if you're comparing him to Donald Trump, like, Donald Trump has done some heinous things. But he wasn't smoking crack cocaine. Like, there is a big difference to me when you talk about illegal drugs. And I don't think things would be any different if he was in power. I think there are certain professions that we should always hold to a higher standard. Period.com.
Interesting. Riley, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think that, like, still the sentiment would be that he is unfit for office, whether or not we were more, you know, sensitive to issues like mental health and addiction. I also wonder, though, maybe the only thing that might change is, like, the way the public sort of like made it into a meme. I feel like maybe that part would be seen as way more in bad taste these days, making fun of addiction, making fun of mental health. So something might change in terms of like the public side of things.
Do you think? I think it would be worse.
You think?
I do. I think we've entered the whole TikTok world that wasn't there in 2013.
That's true.
I think it would be, and kids today often find things as sort of like a little bit, they have to handle things with humor because the world is so dark that humor comes into place even in the most unlikely. This man said a lot of things that were caught right on camera as well.
Yeah.
We all remember I have enough to eat at home. Like there were very meme-worthy things that to me would just be amplified.
When I watched the documentary, first of all, it was a refresher because I almost forgot about all of that stuff. And it's also crazy to think it's been 9 years since Rob passed away. And I think if he were around today, I think people would like him even more because of Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why. Why they have this like kind of a brash way of dealing with the press and with the public. The huge difference, and one thing that was pointed out several times in the documentary, is that Rob Ford was a man of the people. And he would show up and deliver pizzas, he would paint over graffiti, he would help, he was a high school football coach, and that's the stuff that endeared him to people and why I think everybody was just quick to be like, oh yeah, I know he smoked crack, but he's a really good guy. Whereas Donald Trump is the opposite. He's divisive, he doesn't like certain people, he's getting rid of everybody's rights, he's not even paying attention to his own people and starting another war. That, I think, would make people think, you know what, we thought that Rob was bad, but actually Rob's a good guy because he's still thinking about us. He wants to get rid of things. He wants to get rid of all the taxes. And I really do think that people would like him more because of Donald Trump.
Yeah, we could go on and around about all day long.
Because he is a bit of a rebel, you know, rough around the edges, but I think people love a redemption story too. Let's not forget, it was Rob who put himself into rehab.
Yep.
He took himself out of office and said, all right, you know what, I got some issues. We love a redemption story. So there was always something kind of redeeming about him.
And people saw themselves in him because he was not perfect. A lot of people identify with him.
I have nothing against Rob as an individual. I have a lot of empathy for him. I still think that we need to absolutely remember. Since people felt gaslit during that time too. They were like, we know this is happening. We've heard rumors.
Oh, yeah,
we've seen footage. And there was so much. I remember this with my father-in-law at the time. We would have arguments. I had a brand new baby. I remember this vividly, just being like, this is not a person that you want holding this city in its hands. There's too many important things. There are homelessness, there's crises going on. It doesn't mean his heart wasn't in the right place, but he did not and should not have been in office during that time, and everybody knew it, and that's that. Anyway, we're gonna move on to R&B icons, Brandy and Monica. Guess what? They're going on the road for a This Boy Is Mine tour. So you might remember that the two had famously had a fight while rehearsing that song for a performance at the 1998 MTV Music Video Awards. Riley, so is there any previously feuding musical duos that you would love to see reunite and perform together?
That's a great question. I feel like, okay, so actually I have tickets right now to Oasis. And, and if anybody knows anything about Oasis, they famously can't stand each other.
That's right.
We actually like held off on buying tickets because we weren't sure they were gonna make it through the tour. I wanted them to do like the first bit and see if it worked. Yeah, and then we got some tickets. But also, I think that this is mostly a media fabricated feud, but I will take it because I want it to happen. I would love to see Lady Gaga and Madonna go together.
That would be a good concert.
It's Pride Month. Come on, I need this. I need it.
That would be good. What about you, Cynthia?
We love that.
Oh, well, I would love to see Kendrick Lamar and Drake actually do it. But I know they won't. Guys, I know it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So because I know it's not going to happen, would this be a possibility? Drake and Rihanna? Come on, they had some amazing songs together. Remember Work? There are so many like incredible songs, music videos, and the idea that they are never gonna perform together on stage again makes me sad. I'd love to see it.
We saw them in concert together. Did you remember?
I was not at that concert, I was on a cruise.
Oh,
You saw it.
yeah, it was hot.
Yeah.
It was. What about you, Andrea?
You're wishing upon a little star with both of those suggestions, but I love you for it. For me, it's Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. When I tell you I would pay top dollar to see these two women, and you guys remember back in 2003, they had that kiss on stage at the MTV VMAs, and then afterwards they started throwing shots at each other, and it started with Aguilera, who made comments about Spears seeming like a lost little girl, and then Spears in turn called Aguilera not being real and was very critical of her image, so 2003. And then they furthered it by Aguilera calling Britney white trash, and I was like, girl. If they could come together and mend fences, they're both moms now, they're grown, I would give all the money in that savings account to see that.
The funny thing is, I chose the same artists. I chose the same. And the reason why is I am so trying to root hard for Britney.
Yes.
I really am. We know it seems like she's going through some trouble. Whatever you can judge on Instagram.
Yeah.
So if there was something to say to her, you're in the driver's seat of your own career.
Yeah.
Can you get back in the saddle? Get yourself back into rehearsals. There was nothing like, they both had different things, right? Like, first of all, I dressed like both of them. And so there's that part. So help me bring out those outfits again for that concert. But I think it would also be the idea that they survived this thing called showbiz. Showbiz eats up and spits out kids like nobody's business. We see Justin's going through it right now. So I would love a full circle moment for both of them.
Yeah.
And then bring out the kids and kumbaya.
Yep, love it.
Wouldn't that be so good?
That would be wonderful.
Vegas residency, let's go.
I'm there.
So, big question. Can a relationship survive the ick? Well, the New York Times spoke to experts to explain how to handle sudden feelings of disgust. And the good news is, it does not necessarily mean that you cannot make it as a couple. So phew. But can you guys bounce back from the ick?
I mean, I think it depends. Is it an early ick, like a beginning of the stage relationship? Because to me, an early ick is an out, right? Is it a late stage ick? I think you can maybe work your way through that. But it depends on also, is it a physical ick? Like, did they do something gross, like in this article? Some guy she was driving with, he like licked his hands while he was driving? Or something very odd.
Is it a grip thing?
Like that? I don't know what it was. But I don't know.
What do you think of grip
I don't know. But that to me is different than an ideological ick. Like if somebody you find out suddenly is like, voting for like an opposite.
You guys are opposed.
That to me, that's you can get over one maybe a little bit and maybe not another. Anyway, I think it depends on the type of ick and the timing of the ick is what I will say.
I also think it depends on how many options you have, what your past relationship. If you haven't had a date in 2 years, that ick, you'll be like, that's fine, I can look past that because I haven't found anybody in a long time. I think it depends on if you're shallow, how much money that person has, because I've seen a lot of rich people get away with really icky behavior and everybody looks past it. And I also
Or
think,
maybe they're just ick.
right, and maybe they're just ick, but I also have a girlfriend who went on a date with a guy and they went on a hike and she kind of didn't want to go on the date anyway because she didn't like his profession. But she's like, she was at the bottom of the hill and then he went back up to get something and then she watched him come down the hill. You know the way your body kind of does this? When you come down the hill, she's like, she saw that and she was like, I got the ick instantly and she was out. But
See, that to me is a weird ick.
She wasn't really, but my point is, she wasn't really in the first place.
That's what it is. That's what I'm saying. You're not really in. Yeah.
No, I think also like when you go on, the thing that makes it hard at the beginning is when you just don't know somebody, you can't be like, that's gross. But like 10 years on or 5 years on, you know?
You're nose blind to it.
Well, yes, and they can do it, and then you could be like, stop that. Like you get to also have the like intervention, which is kind of maybe a form of intimacy, a less desired form of intimacy perhaps, but being able to be yourself fully and then be able to also call out things that you don't like with your chest. I think that's
I get what you're saying.
I like the healthy spin on that. I like that. There was a guy I was dating for a little while, and I wasn't fully in and I wasn't fully out. But anyway, we were driving one day, and my ick was that I looked over from the passenger side, and there's a piece of, the skin between under your nose and your top lip.
Yeah.
It was like really puffy. So it kind of looked like this. Hold on. I don't know what it was. It kind of bubbled.
Did he have something? Was it always like that, or was
Only in
something
his side
happening?
profile.
Only
you could
on the
see it.
side profile. So
Gotcha.
when he was driving, I'd look and I'm like, oh God. But from the front, you couldn't tell, and he was a really good-looking guy. It was.
God,
like
we are
that.
the worst.
Kinda like that?
And
Humans
so
are
then I
terrible.
decided, you know what? Like, I got the ick, but only the ick from the side. So anytime we would
here.
drive together, I just wouldn't
look.
talk to him.
Okay.
I always looked out the front, right? I always looked this way. So he's like, hey, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why won't you look at me? I'm like, just looking where we're driving. Just looking where we're driving.
my
So,
gosh.
you know, I mean, we broke up after that, so maybe it was the ick. I
Him
don't
and his
know.
puffy lip are married to somebody else right now. And he's just looking at this.
Oh, God, I'm so shallow. Anyway, Riley, we love having you back. Thank you so much for being here. Love being back.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.